So we're going to be talking about social media. Everybody knows about social media, and if you're not with it, then I don't know. I don't know how we can get through life without it. So let's start off by introducing Mr. Rashane Cunningham. We've met Andrea and Anna earlier, but we're now joined by Mr. Rashane Cunningham. A passionate and meticulous advocate, Rashane has created and continues to maintain a track record of competence and excellence in meeting clients' needs. He has gained considerable experience in a number of legal disciplines, including civil and commercial litigation, corporate and compliance, property acquisition and transfer, constitutional and administrative law, estate planning and probate, employment law, and banking and finance. And I'm telling you, that's a mouthful. Rashane's practice involves complex, multi-jurisdictional litigation in the areas of shareholders' disputes, breach of contracts, and asset tracing and recovery. He also enjoys a vibrant corporate, commercial advisory, and transactional practice with particular experience in the areas of mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, capital raising and financing transactions, mortgages, and cannabis licensing and regulation in the Caribbean. He is admitted to practice in the Commonwealth Caribbean jurisdictions of Antigua and Barbuda, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and the British Overseas Territory of Montserrat. Any more since then, Rashane? And Grenada. I know that, and I'm sure there's more to come, right? So I refer to Rashane as a lawyerpreneur because he does things a little differently from the average lawyer. So I would like to welcome you to our stage, and I appreciate having you here. Can we get some more mics up here? Okay. So let's get comfortable. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. So we always hear about social media, and the older folks sometimes think that the younger people spend too much time on social media. But I want to find out, how has social media influenced the way people perceive and manage their finances? How has social media influenced the way people perceive and manage their finances? Whoever wants to jump in, jump right in.
I can start.
Yeah.
I see a lot of influencers spend so much money on things, and they're like, look at my really nice car, look at my really nice clothes. But then you see where they live, and they don't really have the basic needs for themselves, and they've spent their money so that they can show off. I think that perception also is very deceptive of they have all these things, and I need to compare myself to them. So there's that, and then there's also the peer pressure, right? Of I need to compare myself to them. How do I get myself to be there? But we're different people, and if you're comparing yourself to someone else, it's no, it's not gonna work out.
Well said. Anybody else?
I think one of the things that's really amazing about social media, we've talked a lot about community, is suddenly it opens up all these opportunities for community, and you're like, wow, there's so many people out there having really cool conversations about how they're building wealth or what their dreams are and how they built that business. And I think the thing that comes on the flip side of that that's so challenging is that so often when we hear these amazing stories, then there's the call to action at the end, and it's buy my product and you can do this too. And that can be really tricky because it's hard to vet authentic resources that are really going to help you build versus something that might not really help you get where you want to go. And I think that can lead to, in social media, just this analysis paralysis of feeling like there's so much information coming at you, and you're watching these short videos where somebody's personality resonates with you and you feel that, and they seem to really be sharing the same dream as you. And I think that can be really challenging to suss out what is authentic that's going to help me keep growing, and what's just a really, really well done commercial that feels like it's a person that sees me.
Yep, that's so true. Rashane?
I don't know how many of us have seen this. So it's a short video that a lot of influencers have been doing on social media, whether TikTok or on Instagram. I'm here, I am booking a plane ticket, and my bills are over there, my paycheck is here. My paycheck looks at my bills and say, do you see me? I see you. Do you see me? I see you. Does he see us? And I always like to see that when I come across it, and different influencers have done that clip. But what it says to me is, as human beings and universally, we have the same money challenges, yes? And that comes across even on social media. And then to take it a step further, how does social media otherwise influence our money habits and financial wellness? The influence can be positive and it can also be negative. And I think we're going to delve into that as we go along.
Absolutely. Because that's one of the things I wanted to say. The thing with social media, to me, whatever you want to find, you can find. So there is the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, the in-between, the everything. How can young people who they're searching, a session we had earlier, we were talking about managing our emotions and how we have to manage our emotions to make financial decisions. I want us to speak about how does a young person, what should a young person need to know or to understand as they navigate social media when it comes to being financially well? What is it I don't know, maybe a few do's and don'ts or some tips and tools. How can they benefit from social media while at the same time not falling into the traps that will pull them down? Anyone?
That's a big question.
It is. I hope we can dig into it a little.
Yeah, I can share. I'll share a little bit, right? Like, I don't have one tip that's gonna be like, and don't worry, you'll never fall for a scam. I think one of the things that is so important when it comes to looking at like what are you taking from social media, especially when it comes to financial knowledge and financial sharing, is really asking yourself like, what is this telling me, and what is it making me feel? In the same way that like you might watch a commercial and you're like, ooh, it's giving me this emotion and that's calling me to want to do this, or add this to a cart, or check out this product. I think a lot on social media right now, we're seeing so many things where it's like you get this quick blurb, right, of like, here's your bills, how does it make you feel? Like it's that call to your emotion, right? You see this person going through this experience and you're like, wow, and they're like, but now I feel relieved, and it's all because of this budgeting tool. And for $9.95 a month, you too could have this sense of relief. And so those things, those feel very overt, right? But there's also a lot on social media where it's not that direct, right? It's the story, and then the video cuts, and there's just a button, learn more, right? So it's being curious and almost looking at it with like a researcher's mindset when we talk about managing emotions and money, and saying like, okay, what is this gonna do for me? And then thinking, all right, maybe I want to explore this further. Or maybe I'm just going to save it and put it in a folder and come back to it later because it doesn't fit me right now.
Yep, that's good. Anybody else?
I think that how we react to social media is not necessarily a direct response to social media itself, but it is a greater highlight of our own personal values. And so I think how someone reacts in terms of money habits and financial literacy from engaging with social media is really a highlight of the money values and habits that have been instilled in them. Yeah? Because if you are someone who is generally just easily influenced, whether that is social media or a face-to-face discussion, I tell you about a product and I say, boy, I went down the street and I got this product and it works like, wow. You can get it too for X amount. Yes? And you're drawn into this idea of, wow, I want that amazing thing too. Yeah, but have you stopped to ask the questions that should be asked? Yeah, what is the purpose of this product? How much did you get it? Where else can I get it? Did you even shop around to find out if it was cheaper elsewhere? Getting it from location Y, is it going to be of the same quality? If we stop to question things, then it really goes back to what our own values are and whether we can be easily influenced either through social media or a face-to-face conversation. So again, this just goes back to the point I'm making that how we react to social media is really based on our values and not so much the information that is coming across on these social media platforms per se.
Yep, well said.
I'm gonna again echo that. The more that you know yourself, the better the better you can prioritize the way that you spend, and also researching as a complicator, right? Going around checking out if there are better prices, better options, better companies that align with the same values that you do, so that you're supporting someone who also sees the world the same way that you do, right? So sometimes you might have to spend a little bit more. Like we were talking about veganism, right? Vegan food is really expensive. Yeah, but it's like, so it's like, but that if it aligns with you, then that's something that you're gonna want to prioritize more. You're gonna save the money for that, right? But then it's also, influencers are like, oh, this is so good, right? But it's like, have you had a conversation with the influencer yourself? Because there's always gonna be that disconnect, right? And I was talking to one of the individuals in the crowd, and he was like, yeah, I was looking for someone to talk to about financial advice, and I found someone online, and I reached out to them, and because of that, we gotta have a financial conversation. And that's the beauty of social media, is that community, that knowledge is more, it's more accessible to all of us, right? But the thing is, you gotta fact check, right? Because there's so much false information now. So I think there's so many pros and cons, and the tip for me would be do your own research. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And that leads really smoothly into the next question. And I know I'm guilty of it. I have 2 boys, and I just find sometimes they spend too much time on their phones, on social media, and they think that I am all negative about social media. And perhaps sometimes I am. So I want to find out, are there any positives about social media, especially when it comes to financial literacy? So, are there any positive aspects of social media that can promote financial literacy and better money management? And if so, how can we harness these aspects effectively? So, can we use social media as a positive tool to enhance financial literacy, financial management?
I mean, isn't that what we're doing right now by having this conference?
Woohoo!
Right? Because of social media, because of the radios, because of media, we've been able to spread this and push it out. We've been able to fundraise, we have sponsors, and because of that, it's our reach can be so much further. So I would say there's a really big positive, right? You build that community, you get your word out. People who have never heard of you before, oh, someone else reposted your post, and I'm really interested. I want to go to the workshop now.
Awesome. That's a really good point. Thank you.
There is, I can't remember the name of the account, but there's an Instagram account with this single parent household. The mother is present. She has, I think, 3 or 4 kids. And all her posts surround financial literacy. I don't know if anyone has ever come across it. And she takes them through, for want of a better description, mini workshops in terms of money management and spending. Once I saw it, and she was going through, how do you approach a bank to take a loan to purchase a motor vehicle? And in doing so, are you going to go for a brand new vehicle, the dream luxury vehicle, or are you going to go for a second-hand vehicle? What is the principal amount going to be on that loan? What is going to be the period for payback, and also what's going to be your interest rate. And with all those things, what would your monthly car payment look like? Factor that into your monthly budget and everything else that you will have to do. If you are renting, if you have to pay a mortgage, food, entertainment, bills. And what percentage, or if we're looking at a pie chart, what fraction are you prepared to dedicate to just the acquisition of a motor vehicle? And does it have to be a luxury vehicle, or does it only need to serve its purpose of getting you from point A to B and be trustworthy and roadworthy? And so again, and this was all from social media. And so there are accounts, there are influencers, there are people who are accessible via social media who are teaching financial literacy at a level that is easily understood by even a 10-year-old child. Yes? And so to really just answer your question, the access to that kind of information is out there via social media. So there's no disputing that there's a positive impact through social media. Lastly, and this is not a plug because I don't know her personally, but I'm going to mention there's a journalist in Jamaica. She is originally from Belize. Kalila Reynolds, I believe is her name. And she was a mainstream journalist before she decided to focus exclusively on financial literacy and financial journalism. So she talks about the stock market, she talks about investing, she talks about different vehicles for investment. And she breaks it down in a way where the man on the street can understand. Yeah, the director in the boardroom can understand. And again, this goes back to answering the question, there is access to this kind of information. Again, all via social media.
Yeah, I think I would echo that in the sense that, you know how we all have that teacher or that mentor or that auntie that we're like, that's the person I love getting advice from, and you sit down and you're like, every time I just feel like you're dropping these gems that light me up, that make me feel like I understand step by step. You can find that, and I think that is the positive that's on social media, is suddenly you have this world of educators that are out there and change makers that are coming from their professional life. And when you do the research and you're like, okay, I fact checked it, I feel the energy that they're putting out, I can see that they're speaking to me in the way they're breaking these things down. One that I do follow, this is not a plug because I don't know them either, but they did have our co-founder on their podcast, so maybe it's a plug in that way. But it's an artist based in California that does a podcast called Weird Finance. And she has on all sorts of amazing experts across the different worlds of financial well-being, whether it's, you know, lawyerpreneurs or artists and creatives and how they're building their business and helping us have money conversations, that really looks at like, what are the weird oddities and how does finance show up in our life? And when our co-founder was on there, she talked really deeply about our money personalities and how that shows up in her life, but also how it shows up as a financial planner and having conversations with people. And that goes back to what you were saying about breaking it down step by step. Is I think that there's a lot of information out there where it makes it seem like certain things are easy, and it's more like you're going from A to L, and you're like, that's not enough, I need that step by step. And so when you have these bite-sized things on social media, you can really find what's that piece that I need. I know a lot of you are getting ready to go to college. Maybe you're looking at your food budget and you're like, how do you even go about making this budget work? You're gonna find other college students that are grappling with that same thing and are sharing their journey and sharing the tools that work for them. And so it's starting to look really granular at what is this skill, what is this habit I'm trying to build, and then finding others that have been on that journey and are willing and open and connecting with you in an authentic way and breaking it down to like, here's step 1, here's 2. Oh, at 2, man, these emotions came up, but don't worry if that happens to you and you're back at 1, you'll still get going. I think that's the really big positive about social media.
Love it, love it. And there's so much to learn on social media. And so we're speaking about the positives, but I have a question. What are some common misconceptions, excuse me, what are some common misconceptions about wealth and financial success that are perpetuated through social media platforms? I think we kind of hinted at it earlier. And how can we address and counteract these misconceptions? So what are some common misconceptions about wealth and financial success that are perpetuated through social media platforms? And how can we address and counteract these misconceptions?
Can the audience answer too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's hear from the audience.
I know y'all got thoughts on this.
What does wealth mean to you all?
Go. What's some
Hi, I just wanted to piggyback on what Andrea just said, and just to say that very many times when you're trying to get to a goal, financial or otherwise, you'll go from point 1 to point 2, and then you'll fall back to point 1 again. Like she said, just get up and try again, and eventually you'll get to 1, then 2, then point 5, and then 3. So keep it up, and that was a really good example, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we are looking at the question about the misconceptions about wealth and financial success that we find on the various social media platforms, and how can we address and counteract these misconceptions?
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to toss this back to everybody in the audience in just a second. So on Pockets Change social media, one of the things that we've really tried to bring to the forefront is youth voices. We have student song performances where they're performing, and there'll be money jams tomorrow too, where they're performing songs that really look at how do our money personalities show up, how do we build generational wealth, how do we look at the systems that are holding us back and how they show up in our lives, and have real conversations about that. And then those creative songs inspire other conversations, and you start to see the chat, the comments become a resource in themselves, right? And so I think when it comes to these ideas of like what is enough, what does wealth look like, what does success look like, that comes back to our values and what you were saying, and that's going to look different than each of us. It's going to be just as individualized as your budget. You might be sitting next to somebody where they're like, my Converse light me up, they need to be in my budget. And Hannah's like, no, Birkenstocks. And the same thing goes for wealth building. For some of us, we really want to be on that entrepreneurial journey and build a business. For others, it's looking at, actually I want to be within a larger company where I'm growing within something that's already established. And that doesn't mean that the way you're building wealth or the way that you define success is wrong or bad or makes you alone in your journey. There are others that are doing that too. And so there's a power of that on social media. I think the other thing is if you all open up your favorite social media app and look at some of the things that you've been looking at recently, like how does that resonate with your emotions, and how does that for you show up as success? Like what are the things that you're looking at and you're like, I saw these people on vacation, I saw them get this house, I saw them get this job. What are those things that to you convey success, convey wealth, convey the idea of security or stability, that sense of having enough?
I want to throw a thing, because I haven't been talking enough today. Sorry. One thing that's a really big misconception for me, and I think that y'all probably seen it on some kind of social media, is anytime anyone ever says, rich people think or do this, and poor people think or do this. I got a bottle for y'all. Anybody who wanted to come and say this kind of hex. They'll tell you like, oh, rich people, they buy cheap clothes. They look at the simple, plain t-shirt and jeans that these rich people buy. You know that when you go to these Hollywood stores, that ugly white t-shirt is $850, and it's $1,200 for them ratty jeans? All of that is a lie to make you feel like you suck and you need to do more. Frig them.
I do want to comment on this because, I know where I stand, yes, but in recent times, there was this talk about monetizing your social media platforms. And this is what a lot of influencers have now done. And in fact, when you look, you do have influencers who they come on, I'll tell you how much money they earn from, YouTube because they have this many followers on YouTube, or from TikTok, or from Instagram because they've accumulated this many followers, and so the platform starts to pay them to attract people to come onto the platform, yes, and interact with the platform. And when you look oftentimes at how much money these social media platform influencers accumulate, wow, I'm probably doing something wrong. Like, did I really need a whole college degree? Yeah. And I think, these are real questions that we have to now grapple with our young people who are seeing this. And it's no longer education is the key to success. You must go to school. You must go to college. You must get a degree. Because there are other people out there who they don't have those things. They're on social media, and they're making truckloads of money. Yes, more than the doctor, the lawyer, the dentist, the professional. Yeah, and so it would be very hypocritical, in my opinion, to ignore that reality, yes, and not address it. Again, I know where I stand, because for me, and I don't know how true this is for the influencers who are actually making this kind of bank, but for me, my value system is that not everything that glitters is gold, but also if it comes easily, it may just as easily disappear. And in my mind, social media is such a fickle thing. There is this whole culture now, cancel culture. So I may be very popular today. I may be the go-to influencer. I may be rolling bank every month. But how long is that going to last? How sustainable is that? And just considering those things, do I really want to bank everything on, I just want to be a social media influencer so I can make money, I can get a big house, I can get a villa on the beach, and then what? Yeah? So that's just me. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in and say, I don't know, what your views are on that.
Thanks for sharing. I'll tell you, for me, one of the things that I have a little issue with social media is, and it's not just social media, but I think social media makes it bigger. We see the end result. So when you go on social media and they're telling you, this is what I have and this is what I did to get there, what they're missing out, or what they're not telling you, is perhaps all the hard work and extra stuff that they had to do. So the misconception is as if you get from A to Z with the snap of your fingers. And I know that happens even in real life. So you would see someone, you don't see them studying, you don't see them working hard, but you see them open up a store and you think, oh, wow, they just suddenly became successful. But you're not seeing the background, you're not seeing the side work. But I think social media makes it more in your face. And so you're seeing the glitz and the glamour, but it's not showing the hard work. So we go away thinking, I can literally get rich quick. And I'm not here to say that that can't happen. But I believe that social media makes it look really glamorous when you're not seeing the in-between. So I think that's one of the misconceptions we have to be careful of. So when we see these things about, I ditched my day job and I'm making 6 figures, click on the link below. They're gonna tell you something really glamorous, but it might mean that you have to work 20 hours a day in order to get it. So just be careful when you are looking to build your wealth, when you want to become financially well, recognize that you may not be seeing the entire picture when you go on social media. That's how I see it.
I also want to bring this to even a bigger outlook, which is a lot of companies are now switching from doing advertisements via like media and like brands and just like, post boards, and they're going to get ambassadors, right? And you're paying your ambassadors way less than it takes to go do an ad. So it's like when you find people and you find companies that do align with you, talk your money like Dialect was talking. His rate was so low, everyone would just always treat him with that low rate. But when you see the value in yourself because you know yourself, you're gonna be able to bring that to the table and be like, hey, I know you used to spend this much like for ads. You have a couple ambassadors, cool. What can you provide for me? Because this should be a two-way street too, right? For influencers, you have to benefit to a certain extent. And a lot of influencers sell out to be an ambassador for orgs that they don't really care for, but they're like, I really want this product, but like, does it really align with your value? So I think looking at it from a bigger picture, it's capitalism at the hardest, right?
Yep, so true. Any comments from the audience or any questions at this point?
Thoughts, feelings, anybody? I wanted to, the gentleman brought up cancel culture, which I think is a really good example of what the problem is with social media. Y'all know that cancel culture don't exist, right? Do y'all know that? Cancel culture is literally one thing. Hatred of black women. Cancel culture, canceling was something a couple of black women just talked about. I don't like Pepsi because Pepsi does harmful business practices. I don't like Nike because they do sweatshops. So I'm going to publicly say on social media that I'm not rocking with them anymore. I'm not spending money. Just a simple thing of black people taking some power. And anytime black people take any kind of power in this world, people do everything they can to stomp it out. So they came up with this term, cancel culture. Like there is a culture. What they've always said about black people in most countries around the world is that there is a problem with the culture, that the canceling is going to do something about it. I know I got sociologists, some of my sociologist people here in the building. Sociologists have put together I think it's like 300-page document where they went through all the celebrities, all the CEOs that got canceled and saw what happened to them. And guess what happened to every single one of those millionaires? They're still millionaires. Nobody ever canceled them. There's no culture of cancellation. The culture is trying to stomp out the opinions of the most marginalized people, black women. So, and mind you, we've all been caught up in some kind of internet creation that harms people but sounds like it's something good because of the advertising type of things that y'all bring up, right? They have these advertisements about, oh, this is the thing that's ruining stuff, when really it's just folks who don't want you to stop spending money on stuff that you don't care about. So feel free to cancel them, I guess I'm saying.
Thank you, Dialect. Any other comments?
I will say one thing, and I think when you were talking about like the influencers, right, and how they kind of get stuck in that wheel of like that you have to keep building in order to like, how long is this gonna last? You don't have, it's not like a business where you have your newsletter and you have your email list. Like all of those contacts are on someone else's platform. So if you do have an issue where like suddenly you're like, I don't like the way that this platform is moving forward with their practices, but all 95,000 of my followers that I've built my business on are on this platform. I don't actually have their information. It's not like they're checking my website out every day. I think that that's one of the things behind the scenes that the most successful like influencers that create businesses around it is they find ways to have that be the lead mechanism, right? But you're leaving and you're going into building in their community. And I think that that's the same thing for us when we're going onto social media, is that we're not there just to be somebody else's content, right? Is how do you use that to connect in community? And then ultimately that comes out into the real world. Maybe y'all saw this on the radio, you saw it, then we come together, or it becomes a space where like, oh, now we're on the website, or, we come out to Megan has a streaming show where she's, we've been on there too. We find these other connective points. Yes. We find those other connective points, right? And so that we're not just fueling some other giant capitalist platform.
Awesome. So we've spoken about social media. We've spoken about positive. We've spoken about the not so positive. But one thing for sure, we can't get away from social media. So I have a question for the panelists. How can we develop a good balance on social media? How we use it, how we we use it with our to help with financial wellness. How can we create that balance?
Okay, the balance with social media, like for us as people. Yeah?
So yes, so you could use social media to get inspiration, you can use it for education, but it can also get you into the culture of wanting to be like the influencer. So how can we have the balance within our lives as to how we use social media?
Yeah. So one of the things that pops up in my mind is when we had the panel earlier and we were talking about our money personalities and our habits and emotions around money. And I forget who it was, but somebody in the panel had shared, I just put things in my cart and then I come back to it later and I remove it. If you start thinking about doing that with your social media, right? I have a whole folder that's called style and I save clothes that I like. And I have to be, so I was looking at it the other day. I currently have 575 things saved in there, and I've purchased one. Right? So it's giving myself the space to be like, I'm bookmarking this for later, and then coming back and just going like, oh, I can actually style this thing I already have, kind of similar to that. Oh, cool, now it's just inspiration. And you can do the same thing with, really anything, if it's recipes, if it's music, but you're starting to, you're cultivating it as a tool, as a resource for yourself. And then the other thing that's a big tip for me is I found myself, anytime I had spare downtime, especially in travel, scrolling Instagram, and then I got this, I was looking at the report on my iPhone to see, how much time do I spend on Instagram, and I looked at the little mark, and I was like, this is shamefully high, or at least it was for me, right? And so then I was like, when Keisha was talking about come down into your heart and feel like what matters to you, I was like, is this what I want my future to look like, where I spend this many hours a week scrolling videos? And I was like, no, I want to do some other things. I want to get out for more walks with my dog. I want to spend some more time at dinner, making dinner with my husband. So then these things, I put a blocker on it. So once I spend a certain amount of time on Instagram each day, the app turns dark. And again, with any habits, same with financial, I found the workaround for some days when I'm like, but I just need 5 more videos. So you can still have that for yourself. But I think setting limits on how do you want to use it, what is the purpose of it, and then really spending time on your values.
Awesome.
So same thing with the down screen time. One thing that has really affected me because of social media use is my sleep, my lack of sleep, because I'm scrolling late at night being like, ooh, what's this cool video on? Oh, there are green turtles in the San Gabriel River. What? Let me learn more about that. Orcas like to wear salmons as hats. And then I just go down this really weird rabbit hole, right? But I initially only downloaded TikTok because I was looking for a job and I found resume and job advices and interview advices on TikTok. So before that, I was like, I'm not going to use TikTok. But then once I was looking for a job, there was accessible resources online. So then I started going through that, and just knowing your priorities of what you want to use it for, the intention of it, and also making sure that you keep yourself in check because it will mess up your sleep. It's important that you don't look at your screen at least an hour before you go to sleep, and this is something that I'm still struggling with. But it's a resource. You have to know yourself. It's the values that you align with, and also being lenient with yourself where, you might have spent 8 hours on Instagram or TikTok today, but that's okay. Maybe you learned something, and tomorrow will be a new day, and you can always try again.
Love it. Love it. All right.
I agree. I entirely agree. I think for me as well, and it comes back again to what your values are, because knowing what your values are will help you to strike that balance in life. And it doesn't matter what it is, if it's social media or something else, you'll be able to strike that balance. I think for me personally, and when Megan was reading my intro, I was like, why am I even here? Yeah, I am a practicing attorney at law. Why am I on a panel to talk about money? And the truth is that when I went to law school, they don't teach you how to run a business. They don't teach you about money management. They don't teach you about the fundamentals of business. And I started a law firm during the pandemic. And for me, I had to find the resources to teach myself about running a business. Yes, and so that's how I used social media. I found podcasts to help me. I found accounts, whether on LinkedIn, whether on Instagram, to help me. And I think through that, I've been able to create an online network of like-minded individuals, fellow law firm owners, lawyers from across the globe, who I literally jump on calls every now and again with them to discuss what are you doing in your practice. This is what I am doing. This is how I am trying to scale. This is how I am trying to expand. These are how the overheads are looking. How are we generating a monthly income to cover these overheads to ensure that we're going to be sustainable, to ensure that we're going to have a profit. Again, all of this is business. All of this is a business talk. And this is a business talk that I am now able to share with professionals who are in the same field as myself, but together we're in the struggle. And I only met them through social media, right? And again, that's just a positive. And a positive was, again, being intentional about how you want to use the platform and chasing that very intention. And you will find what it is you're looking for.
Community.
I like that. I like that. Anything from the crowd? Any questions?
Okay, so one of the things I've learned in terms of helping to balance my social media account is for every influencer that I follow, I tend to research them. So let's say I followed one person, her name is Jasmine Rice Girl. She's a very funny person. Her social media accounts, she says some very weird things, but she is a business owner. She started a social media app for other influencers, and that's how she made her money. But then when you research her background and what she did, you hear about all the things that she had to go through in her childhood. You know, she was living in a one-room apartment. She didn't have the same sort of lifestyle that we had. She had discrimination while she was going to school. She would often have to go through the hunger struggle. And you learn about the sort of background about it's not just the quick money that she made. It's not just the easy, quick cash. Sometimes it is about the struggle. Sometimes it is about the taking the time out to manage money, because she wouldn't have had to make easy money then, and she would have had to balance and budget all the sort of stuff to reach where she was. And sometimes even then, even today, she talks about her mental health struggle. So even as a big social media influencer, she's also dealing with another struggle of mental health. And she actually talks about, the importance of mental health. And so for young persons, young persons like me, it's important to understand that being an influencer, making money, quick money, isn't all that it turns out to be. Sometimes you will often have a disadvantage. You will always have something going on in the background that would cause you to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Will have a struggle, if you will. And so oftentimes I often say, for every influencer I follow, just research them, look into their backgrounds, because you will find out things about them that you will never know about if you don't research.
Excellent point. I love that. Thank you. Anything else from the audience? All right. So we are winding down. And I have a question. So at least 3 of us here are professionals in the financial industry, financial education, and we have a lawyerpreneur who has to be in tune with his finances. How can we leverage social media platforms to educate and empower individuals about financial wellness while also addressing the potential risks and pitfalls associated with them. So basically, what I'm asking is, similar to what we just said, what advice can we give to the young people? We want them to learn more about financial literacy and to build your wealth. So how can we give them advice on doing that while being aware of the risks that are associated with social media?
I can kick that off.
Right.
Ooh, do we have one from the audience?
Let's
Yes,
get the
let's do it.
audience.
All right. That's a very, very good question. I found, okay, so let's go back to, let's say, when I started the Antigua State College and I knew that I wanted to do automotive engineering. At that point, I knew nothing about social media. Fast forward, owned my race car, and while owning a race car and traveling throughout the Caribbean, you'd hear women speak about not knowing how to take care of their cars or going to a mechanic and the mechanic would tell them, look, you would just probably get a green light on your dashboard that would just probably tell you that your cruise control is on. You go to a mechanic and the mechanic tells you need a new engine, right? So my thing was, hey, like I can use social media to actually teach women small bits and pieces, the do's, the don'ts, and so forth with regards to maintenance and basic maintenance of their cars. Now, what's important is understanding your niche market, understanding the people that you are trying to get the story to, understanding the trends, the current trends, because and understanding the age range as well, because whereas I can break down something for a age range between 17 and 35, some of the ladies at 65 would be like, huh? Where did that come from, you know? So understanding all of that is very important, and being able to diversify your content. So with regards to financing, I think that one of the things is that understanding what's the current trend, and then utilize information in bits and pieces, because if you're going to put a whole thesis on the internet, no one is going to read it. No one is going to listen to anything, you know. So put, like, use the power of 3. 3 tips to X, Y, and Z. 3 pointers to PQRS and so forth and so on. And then just push it out to your niche market, and then once that happens, then someone would pick it up and say, hey, I love how they put across this information, and you'll see how quickly that will be able to, you know, make its way through the community.
Thank you. So, panel? Okay, so one of the things I wanted to say is what we have found within Samuel Fields Consulting Group when we put out our little flyers, our little blurbs, we have to recognize that young people think differently. So we have to ensure that whatever we put up there to encourage you to understand financial literacy, it's in your terms. It's something that you will gravitate to. So we have been looking a lot at gamification because we realize that's what the young people like. So I think that's a great use of social media in pushing that out. But at the same time, we have a responsibility as the financial educators putting the information out to ensure we don't overload you, we don't give you any false expectations about whatever it is we're putting out in social media, that this is going to be the solution. I think somebody had mentioned that. And so we have a responsibility as users of the social media platform to ensure that what we put out there is small enough bites, getting the point across, but making sure that it's enjoyable for the young people.
Totally echo that. And also posting your sources of where you get your information from.
Yep.
That's a good place for you for other people to do their own research and figure out how they feel about this, right? Because we all have different feelings about different things. And it's our responsibility to take that like to the furthest step to see, you know, how do we align with them? Is this actual fact, or is this just something like someone pulled off a TikTok?
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that I've been really, really excited to see in financial education, and Pockets Change has been very fortunate to be a part of this, is using the tools of expression and connecting with the same way Dialect was talking earlier about what is that thing for you. If writing down your goal isn't your thing, if speaking it out is, if creating a painting is, if having the dance and that movement connects you to the things that excite you, and you know, that's part of habit building when it comes to finance. It's also part of the way that we take in knowledge. And so one of the things that's been really exciting to see in financial education is more modalities being shared across social media, where you start to see on like TIAA, which is like a retirement fund for teachers, they did a social media campaign this past year where they brought in a whole bunch of dancers from Chicago, and they danced out the emotions of what it meant to have financial stability. And then they had a call to action of what does financial stability for your future mean, right? And the conversations that took forward. So then what I would say is my advice is when it comes to financial education and what we aim to be a part of too, is that it's not a single conversation, right? You find your money buddy here, you keep those conversations going, and social media is a really wonderful space where you can keep that community building going. Maybe the people here that you've met today, you know, you saw Keisha and maybe she's heading back to space, right? Or maybe she's on to another travel, but you can connect on social media, you can continue to hear that journey and see how that evolves. And that gives you a way to connect to that and to continue learning, and for all of us in our financial journeys to do that too.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I totally endorse that. It's not a single conversation. And I think for me, well, certainly from my perspective and how I use and engage with social media, from an entrepreneur's perspective, is finding your niche market. Totally agree with you on that, because social media is vast, and you must appreciate that your content won't speak to everyone. Yes? And so this is why, if the purpose of which you're engaging with the platform is to generate business and to market your business and the services that you have to offer, you have to find your niche. And in finding your niche, certainly for me as an attorney, how I interact with the platform is not just a matter of marketing my services, but it's also building that network which I spoke about earlier. Network of like-minded persons. They may be in law, or they may be in some other area, but they are entrepreneurs in their own right. But the circumstances which we have to contend with as business owners is the same irrespective of the industry. Yes? And that is one thing that is common to every single entrepreneur. Yes? Those things are common. And again, this is why it's called fundamentals of business. It is a fundamental thing. And so again, just understanding what your target audience is, what the niche market is that you're dealing with, the purpose of which you're engaging with the platform, whether it is to build network or to market your service, and then understanding all those things, it enables you to better engage on the platform and to share the tips that you have learned in your business, that you have learned with marketing, as well as to also just advertise the services that you're offering. Yes, and so again, it's not one conversation, it's not one theme, it's not one thing. Yeah, it's multifaceted. But again, it comes down to what your niche is and what your particular focus is in treating with the platforms.
Well said. Any comments from the audience before we wrap up? So social media is a tool. And I want us to remember that. So it's not your best friend. It doesn't replace your family. And Anna mentioned it, do your own research. So not because somebody comes up and says something grand, you're going to run with it. You need to do your own research. But at the same time, it's a tool that you can use to benefit you. So you have to find that balance. You have to recognize the things that just absolutely make no sense. Put that aside. The things that are just there for fun, for pleasure, and you enjoy it, but you leave it alone. And then the other things that can actually help you, perhaps with your business, with your personal development, and your growth. So social media, we know, is here to stay. It's getting bigger and bigger. We just need to know how to use it to our advantage. And in particular, with financial literacy, there's a host of things you can find on social media. Let's see how we can use it to benefit ourselves. So I want to thank the panelists, Mr. Rashane Cunningham, Andrea Ferreira Haggerty, oh Lordy, and Anna. I've been saying it so great today. I'm going to make sure I say it again. Anna Futisate Yaku. Woo! That's a mouthful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Megan, for hosting.
Absolutely. So we have come to the end of our regular sessions for today. We continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be much more interactive. We're going to have our treasure hunt. We're going to have our money jam. But at this time, and I know you guys must be hungry because I'm hungry, but we have a few minutes where those of you who want to have a quick conversation with dialect, to go over whatever ideas you have in your mind for your activity tomorrow, for your presentation, your song, your spoken word, this time is when we'll be able to do that.
Megan, can we, would it be okay, would you mind shouting out the prizes that are available for
Absolutely.
the competition?
Okay, so for the treasure hunt, it's going to be in groups. So we have a lot of fragrances from Lilac Scents that the group will win. For the money jam, we have, I'm going to call it a boombox, Samsung. I really was supposed to bring the picture, but it's a big box, a party box, an audio box. If you're having a party, it's a big speaker, and it's Bluetooth, and you can play your music. I was told it's the thing that most young people want. And so that's the main prize. That's actually worth over or close to $900 and something, close to $1,000. So it's a really good gift. And then we have some Bluetooth headphones for the runners-up. And there are also some gift certificates. We have a gift certificate from Big Banana. We have a gift certificate from Antigua Home and Garden Discount Center. We have a gift certificate from Townhouse Furnishings. So lots of gifts, lots of prizes.
Wait.
Yes.
We missed one. I got one.
Let's hear.
I was putting something in. So, been talking to folks, and I like what y'all have going on. I've talked to some musicians. I talked to some artists, some folks who are like, I'm not an artist yet. I'm not seeing all y'all, so I just want to angle in. Some folks who are like, I'm not an artist yet. So, I love people finding out the artistry and the power that they have in them. So, for the person who has the best song, who has never written a song before, I have 100 EC cash. Sponsored by Dialect.
Yeah. The other prize that I want to share with you all is you all are kind of getting this like sneak peek at a larger competition that's also going to be coming out. So in April each year, Pockets Change does a hip hop fin fest, and we have youth ages 14 to 12 to 18.
12.
We expanded it this year, 12 to 18. and it's open to the US, the Caribbean, and Canada. You can create a song and submit that song to win. The grand prize winner for that each April wins over $5,000 in prizes, which includes a studio and a backpack with full of Sony equipment. If you do want to be that next influencer, everything you need is in there. If you want to continue creating art, you're taken care of. If you just want some amazing equipment to take to college with you for creative projects and school projects, you've got it. There's also a cash prize. The grand prize for that is $1,000 US. And then we also have this amazing trip where we fly the winner up to perform in person. And we haven't defined that location. Last year it was in Orlando, and it was at Disneyland Springs, and our winner flew out and he performed his song about community and building a business and how that was his way of building generational wealth and really moving forward and addressing change with the racial wealth divide. So
you know that was Anna's favorite song because it was about community.
Yes. So if you have never created a song before, this could be your space to start to explore. One of our students that submitted in our first year of the competition had never submitted a song before and became one of the big prize winners. We've also had students where they said, like, hey, we've only gotten into the beat side of it. I've never performed a song. And they went ahead and put in and became the grand prize winner. So tonight you can talk to Dialect, you can get some coaching, you can take your money mantra from this morning, you can turn that into a song.
I also wanted to mention that the prize also includes mentorship in your industry that you're interested in. So if you're trying to go into music, Dialect will be your dude. If you're trying to go into finance, you have Andrea and Pamela, our co-founder. And then we go into so much more because we have our network, right? So, you know, lawyer entrepreneurship, Megan Fields is consulting, we have banking. So like whatever you're interested in, we have people who are also connected. And you're part of our community, so that means this is part of your community too.
To give some specifics, our first winner, Cleo DeJ, was a 17-year-old producer from California, and she made a rap song, but she was like, I'm not a rapper, I'm a producer. I want to make beats, I want to produce, I want to make music. And she used our win and some other things to put on her resume and got into a college that is run by Rock Nation, that's Jay-Z's produced company, where the entire college, she's going to school to be a beat maker and a producer. That's the whole point of what she's doing. And work with us allowed her to get those steps to get up there. So if you have similar aspirations, we got your back.
All right, that's a lot. So please make sure you use this time to have a discussion with Dialect, start getting your words together, share it with your friends, because tomorrow is going to be hot. All right, so that's it. Oh, not like today hot. What do the young people say? It's going to be lit? I don't know. Is that what you say? Yeah? Okay. I'll stop.
We'll wait to hear the songs, then we'll know.
All right, so that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Those of you who need to speak with Dialect or anyone else, now is the time. Thank you so much. And thanks again to my panelists.